Hi you guys, welcome back to a new video. If you have never been here before, my name is Kendall and this is my channel. My account is mostly bookish related, books, lifestyle. Every now and then my cat Peanut Butter will make an appearance. So today we're going to be doing a really fun tag that I've seen going around, and it is the book recommendation tag. And this just seemed like a perfect video to do right about now. I feel like summer is starting. People are definitely going to be looking for books to read. I know summer is basically when people can actually read and, you know, have the leisure time to do that. So I thought today would be the perfect day to go ahead and get that out. I know it looks like a bit of different setting right now. My bookshelves look horrendous because I just filmed a really big unhaul, and that will be coming to you soon. But I wanted to do this video while I get all of that situated and figured out, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first prompt is a book that you tell people is your favorite. And I'm not gonna lie, for a lot of these I have more than one book because I honestly think that so many different things fit different people's interest, and my interest is so like wide and broad that I like a lot of stuff. So I thought, you know what, let's just go ahead and recommend more than one. That way if it doesn't sound interesting to you, something else may pop along that, you know, does sound interesting to you. But I have two favorite books of all time. They are ones that I will, you know, I never see myself not loving them. The first one is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And the second one is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, you get a lot of magical elements in there. It's more of magical realism than fantasy. You get a historical background as well. You get dual timelines of going back and forth between like the 1700s to the present day. You get romance mixed in there, you get a little bit of mystery, and it's just an overall really emotional and descriptive and just beautiful written story, and I don't think that this one will ever leave my mind. The next one is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this book has got a lot in it. My favorite thing is that it is written in a interview style, so you get to see different like points of view within the interviews, and it's just a really cool concept. I do highly recommend that you listen to the audiobook along with it, or if you don't want to read it physically, to listen to the audiobook, because it has a full cast of characters and it just makes the experience all the more amazing. So a lot of people like to say this is loosely based off of Fleetwood Mac because it is following a band in the 70s who go through trials and errors and different things. They just go through a lot, but you're following them on the road and on their tour. You're seeing how they relate to each other, you're seeing how they interact with each other, what they mean to each other, and this book had a really big twist at the end that just was amazing, and I don't think I will ever forget it. The next prompt is a book that is your guilty pleasure. I would say that anything that has smut in it is my guilty pleasure, but honestly I'm not even that guilty anymore because now a lot of people are reading books with smut, so you know what, smut is okay, and I stand by that. So my biggest guilty pleasure though I think would be the Maid series by Danielle Laurie. This is a like mafia series that follows 3 different men, but all 3 men are kind of in the same family in a way, and so it's really interesting. These books all had different characters, and of course I liked some more than others, but overall the series was just really good to me, and yeah, it feels like a guilty pleasure, but honestly I feel no guilt for it. The next prompt is a book that everyone loved but you didn't. I feel like this one got a lot of hype on BookTube and Bookstagram and Book Talk. It had hype everywhere, and it's still getting hype now, and that is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I got this through Book of the Month when it came out in September of 2021. I think I read this last year, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember. I read it in 2021 or 2022, but it was a 3-star. I wouldn't say that I loved it. If you've been around, you know that I do my book rating system based on Nick Miller quotes, and the Nick Miller quote was, for a 3-star rating, is that you liked it, yes. Do you regret it? Yes. Will you ever come back to it? No. And that's kind of how I felt about The Love Hypothesis. So it was good. I wish there had been more to the story. I really liked the science aspect of it, and I thought there was going to be a lot of STEM mixed in, but it was a lot of like fake dating. It was just a lot to, there was some flaws in the book, so it wasn't my favorite, but yeah. The next prompt is a book that you read the fastest, and I pride myself on this book, I'm not gonna lie, because I read this book in less than 24 hours. I think I read this book actually in a span of probably 12 hours. To be honest, I woke up one morning, started reading it, and I didn't stop reading it until I went to bed. And when I went to bed, I was done with this book. And that is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This book is a chunker, so it really does surprise me that I made it through. But this book is 757 pages, so it was a lot, but it follows two of my favorite characters in the ACOTAR universe, which I think is why I just couldn't stop reading. I was really excited for it. I was living on that high of reading all the ACOTAR books, and this one had just come out, and I was just super excited for it. So I'm ready to get back into this series. I'm hoping to reread them soon, so this one I can just tell I'm gonna want to savor just to make sure I didn't miss anything the first time. I believe there are a lot of books out there that could fit this prompt, but the prompt is a book that you think deserves more hype. The first one that I'm going to go with is any book, honestly, by Catherine Walsh. This is the only one I have physically. It's holiday romance. She is an Irish writer, and she writes stories that take place in Ireland. This one had a little bit of setting in London as well, but this book was so good. I love Catherine Walsh's writing. It reminds me of Emily Henry with the banter that she has between her characters, and it's just overall really good, and I don't think she gets enough hype. And so I definitely think that if you are looking for a romance with more plot in it, you would definitely like it. It takes place in an airport. These two people who happen to be friends are trying to get back home to Ireland, and they are stuck where they are in the USA, so they have to try and get back home to Ireland before Christmas, and it's just a really fun and good time. This next one has been getting a little bit more hype recently, but I still think it's not enough hype for what it deserves. And that is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This one is a cozy fantasy. It's the first cozy fantasy that I've ever read, and I now discovered that I love that kind of genre. So you are following this orc, and she has been on the battlefield all her life and fighting, but she decides she wants to open up this coffee shop in this little quaint town, and she meets a bunch of different characters. We have a small mouse, we have a succubus, we just have a lot going on, but it's the perfect read if you just want those cozy coffee shop vibes, but add a little bit of fantasy in with it. And the next one is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. Again, Erin A. Craig is my absolute favorite young adult author, and I don't think her books get enough hype. I think they are starting to, especially now that the sequel to this book is coming out. People are starting to realize that how good this is, but this one is very dark and gothic and kind of Victorian, so I really, really enjoyed it. It's kind of loosely based on a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, but it's very dark. There is some romance, there is some coastal ocean settings, which are even creepier to me. So I thought this book was amazing. It's one of my absolute favorite books, and I will never stop raving about it. The next prompt is a book that is becoming a movie or TV show. Again, there are a lot of speculations out there about certain books. Some of them have been picked up to create a script, but they haven't, gone gone the mile of getting them actually in production. So from what I've heard, these two are ones that are getting scripts. I don't know if they'll fully become movies or TV shows, but I really hope that they do, and I hope that they do these books justice. But the first one is Beach Read by Emily Henry, and the second one happens to be People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I absolutely adore Emily Henry books. Again, it's more of the romance book, but I really think they should be categorized as like literary fiction meets romance. So it's just a lot of bigger things going on. There are more plot points in the books than just the romance, and that's what I love about it. And I love the way she writes her characters, especially her male characters, because they always become a new book boyfriend, and I will never apologize for that. But this one doesn't really take place on a beach, so do not get confused by the title. It kind of takes place in near a lake instead, but it's still really, really good. It's about these two authors who are kind of rivals, and they end up working together to make each other better, and it just goes uphill from there. And the next one is People We Meet on Vacation. This is where I discovered my love for friends to lovers trope, and I will forever remember this book. This is about two adults who are friends, and Alex and Poppy are their names. But Alex and Poppy used to go on these vacations every year with each other, but they stopped doing that and kind of lost touch with each other. But then they decided to do it one more time, and they're trying to reconnect and rekindle their friendship. It's just a really wholesome and sweet story, so I couldn't recommend it enough. The next prompt is a book that you have reread the most. I'm not huge on rereading books. There's just so many out there that I still have yet to get to for the first time, so I don't really have a lot of time to reread books. But I did mention when I was showing you guys about A Court of Silver Flames, I do plan on reading the A Court of Thorns and Roses series again this year. I am working my way through the Throne of Glass series at the moment, and the way that I have them set out, I do have time to start and finish the ACOTAR series and reread the whole series this year before Crescent City comes out next year in January. So that is the plan, so that will be a reread that I do. But the next book is just one that I think that I could reread over and over again because I do enjoy the writing style and everything about it, and that is The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. I really love the way Sally Hepworth writes. It's more of a suspenseful drama than they are a thriller. But this one has one of my favorite main characters ever. Her name is Fern, and she is just a ball of fun. I absolutely adore her. And this book just is very intriguing. The narrator of the audiobook helps enhance the experience with it, and it's something that I don't think I could ever get bored with. So I feel like if I ever needed a comfort reread of a book, this is the one that I would go to. The next prompt is a book from a genre you don't typically read from. There aren't too many genres that I won't read from. The genre that I read from the least is probably nonfiction, but I don't have a ton of books that I have read that are nonfiction. So I need to get on that, and I will. But I am going to go with two books that are from genres that I have read before, and I am trying to still read from now, but they're just not priorities most of the time. And the first one is Deep, Dark, and Dangerous by Mary Downing Hahn. This is a middle grade book. This one happens to be like a spooky middle grade book that I recently reread, and I absolutely loved it. It actually made me cry. This one has a bigger, deeper This one has a deeper meaning than some middle grade books do, but this book is really short. You can read it literally in a few hours. So it's following Allie, and Allie is going with her aunt and her cousin to their old family lake house. She's going to help her aunt watch her cousin during the summer while her aunt works, and they meet this little girl who was just like really rude and just terrible to them, the cousin and Allie, and so they start setting out on this mystery to find out who she is, and there are some family secrets that come about, and it's just a really good read, but it really has a good meaning at the end. And I think that if that's the kind of middle grade you like, where you do get a deeper meaning from it, you should definitely pick this one up. And the next one is from a romance genre. I don't typically read romance books, but I am getting more into them now, and this one is an amazing one. This is The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. Abby Jimenez is right up there with Emily Henry for me. I absolutely love her book. I tabbed everything that I just enjoyed in this book, and it was quite a lot. Again, this is a book that is under the romance genre, but it has more plot to it than just romance, and you're following a firefighter and this girl whose name is Kristen, and they are in both of their best friends' wedding. They're having to be like a groomsman and a bridesmaid, and so they're kind of forced to be around each other, and then they kind of start, you know, getting a friendship going and a more meaningful relationship. So it's a really good read. It's really hard hitting. Definitely check some trigger warnings before you get into it, but it's so worth the read. The next prompt is a book that deserves all the hype that it gets. I know not everybody will agree with me on this one. This one definitely has reviews where people either really love it or really hate it. I happen to really love it, and that is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I loved this book. It is very hard-hitting. It deals with some heavy emotional topics, and again, this is one where you want to check the trigger warnings before you go into this one, but it's very deep. This is another one where there's a bigger story than just the romance part of it, and you are following Lily, and Lily has grown up in a very abusive household, and she, you know, has sworn that she will never live that way. She wants to get away from that and just kind of start her new life, and she meets this amazing guy, and everything goes off from there, and then she ends up running into a childhood friend who she used to be in love with, and it gets very complicated very fast, but it's such a good read. And the next one is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This book still baffles me to this day. I think I would reread this one as well. There's just so much going on in this book. It's definitely dark humor mixed with horror, which I love. It kind of is a possession story, and you have this exorcist, and this girl gets possessed, and her best friend is trying to get the demon out of her, and it just throws you for a whirlwind. It's such a good, funny and dark story. It will have you wanting to like scream and cry and probably get sick all at the same time, but if you are down for that, read it, please. The next prompt is a book that you usually recommend when you're asked to give a recommendation. I have a few, and they're all in different categories. The first one is a cozy mystery called Killer Chardonnay by Kate Lansing. This one has that, you know, not acute, because it's got a cozy mystery, so of course there is a dead person, which is not very cozy at all, but it takes place in Colorado, and I really love the setting of this book, and there is some romance going on in it, so you have more elements than just the mystery happening, and you know, there's a lot going on in this. It has wine, it has, you know, a detective in it who is gorgeous. We just have a lot going on, and I'm here for it. There's also a really cute cat on the cover, so you can't go wrong with a cat. The next one I recommend is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This one, if you like historical fiction or fiction based on true crime or women's fiction, I think you would love this one. It's also set in like England in the, I think it's the 1800s? No, the 1700s, sorry. And you're getting a dual timeline with multiple POVs, so it just has everything that you need in it. It's a really quick read. It's very whimsical and magical, so if that's what you're looking for, this is the one for you. And the next one I recommend is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. You guys are just gonna have to get used to hearing about Emily Henry and Abby Jimenez on this channel because I love her. This one is about a ER doctor who comes from a really big city and a really rich and powerful family, and she goes to this rural part of town and tries to get away from all of the chaos, and she ends up meeting a guy there, and so much goes on. And this has like an age gap relationship in it. It has like a sunshine grumpy trope, and it also has a goat in pajamas, so you can't really go wrong. It has that city girl meets country boy as well, which I really like. So I just need everybody to read this book. The next one is a book that has your favorite characters in it, and I have a lot, so we're gonna go through these pretty quickly. The first one is the Aurora Rising trilogy. There are 6 or 7 characters in this book. I can't remember exactly how many, but they are like a ragtag group of misfits who have kind of just been pushed together to make a team, and they don't really, you know, click well together, but they have to figure out a way to make it work. And they're just, I love this group of friends. I love this group of characters, and they will forever have a place in my heart. The next one, funnily enough, is kind of for the same reasons, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I seriously love these characters so much. They are, again, kind of like a ragtag group of misfits who have to join together to complete this mission, and they're all kind of using each other to get what they want, but they care about each other a little bit more than they let on, and it's just an amazing cast of characters. And the best thing about this book is that you get multiple POVs, so you get to see what each of them is thinking and what goes through, you know, their everyday activity, thoughts, and everything like that that they do. I couldn't go on without mentioning all of Sarah J Maas's books. So the A Court of Thorns and Roses book series, I love all of the characters mostly except for this one, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't love a lot of them, but he's one of my least favorite ones, but I do love this cast of characters as well. I want to, you know, I want to be in the inner circle. And again, another Sarah J Maas series, Throne of Glass. I have just started reading this series. I am now on the 4th book, and I just want to be friends with all of these people. I love that they're all different personalities coming together, but they're all so close, and they truly do mean a lot to each other, and I would die for any of them. So yeah. And I couldn't mention those 2 series without mentioning Crescent City, also by Sarah J Maas. I love so many of the characters in here. There are so many of them, and I feel like I would be best friends with all of them because I just love them all so much. The next one is a book that you wish you could live in, and I have a few. The first one being Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I really love the magic system in this book and the characters in it. There is a lot at play here. This is a very complex book for a young adult book, but I truly love the world. It's very whimsical and magical, and, you know, kind of, I picture it as like a historical fantasy in a way, but very just romantic and very, I don't even know how to describe it exactly, but it just feels magical. And it's just like, I picture this is how a dream, like, you know how when you dream, you sometimes dream of different worlds, and it just feels like magic. That is how I picture this. It's literally like stepping into a dream world, and that's where I want to live. The next place I wouldn't mind living is in These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. This one is a fae magic system, court system, and I think it would be so much fun to be a fae. And again, the 2 boys in here, wouldn't mind being a fae around them. So that's all I'm gonna say. And the last world that I would want to live in is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This one, the magic system in this is unbelievable. I would love to live here. Books come alive, you have grimoires, you have the Regency kind of feel. You know, Nathaniel definitely doesn't make it hard to want to live here. Basically, I just want to live here for the men, if you guys haven't caught on for that. But yeah, I feel like it would be a lot of fun protecting books and just that being my job. The next prompt is a book that you thought you would hate but ended up loving, and the 2 that I'm mentioning, I don't know where one of the books is. I know I own it, but I have no idea where it is, and that is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I really loved this book, and I was a little nervous going into it because sometimes when I read books that are set in like the South or South Carolina specifically, it just, even though I can relate to them and I'm like, yeah, I can picture that, but you're kind of like, I just want to read about a world where I don't know what they're talking about. You know, I want fantasy worlds or different places that I've never been before. So I was a little nervous about it, but it was so good. This book has mystery, it has romance, it has suspense, it has just that plot of like found family and a coming of age book. It's just amazing, and I absolutely adored it. It has an historical aspect to it, and the movie adaptation of this book was just as amazing as the book was. I absolutely just adore the entirety of this book, really. And the next one is Verity by Colleen Hoover. I do not own this one. I believe I read it on my Kindle. It's really funny because there are some friends of mine reading it right now, and it's just kind of hilarious to see their reactions. And it's a very controversial book, you know. I have had people where I have very similar tastes to them, and they hate the book, and I actually really enjoyed it. So it was just, again, you get like a dark, twisted thriller, and there's just a lot going on in that book. And you can't really say anything without spoiling it. So it's just one that I really ended up enjoying, and I didn't know if I would or not. The next prompt is a book that made you cry, and I have quite a few. The first one being Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This one made me cry. It had a very sweet sister relationship in it, and it made me want to have a better relationship with my sister. And it reminded me of things that you don't pay attention to in life, and things that kind of pass you by if you don't take the time to stop and slow down and see what you have right in front of you. So that'll make you cry. The next one is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This is one of my favorite books, probably my favorite book that I've read this year so far. Absolutely loved it. It also has one of my favorite characters in it, and he is the reason why I cried so much. There's a lot of anxiety representation in this book, and there, you know, with every romance book, there's a third act breakup, and the third act, like, breakup per se in this book really destroyed me. And the author's note at the end, I didn't stand a chance of no tears with this book. And the last one is Girl A by Abigail Dean, and this book is heavy and it is hard-hitting, and you most definitely need to check trigger warnings for this. But it starts off with these kids who their parents have treated them poorly. They abuse them physically, emotionally, mentally. They lock them away even with chains, and they don't feed them. And there's just a lot that goes on to play in this book, and you're getting the point of view of them trying to survive that, and then where they are now in their lives. But it was so hard and heavy hitting, but it was exactly what I needed at the moment. And I think this book deserves way more hype than it gets. And the last prompt is a book that you wish you could read for the first time, and I have two, and they both happen to be thrillers. The first one is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Penborough. I know this one is very controversial. Again, it's one of those where people either really loved it or really hated it. I really loved it. It was a wild experience, and I just remember not being able to put it down. I filmed my reactions to it because there was so much happening where my jaw was dropping, and it was just outstanding. I think this is one of the best thrillers that I've ever read, and it makes me want to read literally everything that Sarah Penborough has ever written. And the last one is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is one of my first thrillers that I ever read. It was a wild time. I just remember being so confused the entire time in this book, and then when everything came together at the end, I was just in shock, and it made me want to read more thrillers, and that's why I love this one so much. So I really wish that I could read it again for the first time. Hopefully this book recommendation video helped you find some reads that maybe you haven't heard of, or maybe you've been thinking about picking them up and this was the reassurance that you needed to do just that. But I'm just so glad that I get to share these kind of videos with you guys so that you see books that I like. And definitely if you see any books that I haven't mentioned that are similar to ones that I've read, or based on what I liked, what you think I would like, leave it down in the comments below and I will make sure to check those books out. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.